What if the biggest obstacle in your life isn't the world, but your own mind? This audiobook exposes the hidden lies shaping your reality and gives you the tools to break free. Rewire your thoughts, reclaim your power, and step into the limitless life you were meant to live. Introduction. There's a voice inside your head, one that whispers doubts, fuels insecurities, and keeps you trapped in invisible chains. You've heard it before. It tells you that you're not good enough, that you'll fail if you try, that happiness is for other people, that you're destined to repeat your past mistakes. It's the voice that makes you second-guess yourself before you even begin. The one that feeds your fears, magnifies your flaws, and convinces you that you're stuck exactly where you are. But what if I told you that voice is lying to you? What if nearly everything you've believed about yourself, your worth, your capabilities, your future, is not an unshakable truth, but a carefully constructed illusion? A trick played by your own mind. Right now, your brain is a battlefield, and the enemy is not the world around you. It's not your past, your circumstances, or even other people. The real enemy is the voice in your head, the one that has been lying to you for years. But here's the secret that changes everything. You don't have to believe that voice. You can rewrite the script. You can dismantle the lies. And once you do, you will unlock a level of clarity, power, and freedom that most people never experience. That's exactly what this book is going to help you do. Why your mind lies to you and how it shapes your reality. The most dangerous lies aren't the ones told by others. They're the ones you tell yourself without even realizing it. Lies like, I'm not good enough. I don't deserve success. I'll never change. This is just the way I am. If I try, I'll probably fail. Other people have it easier than me. These thoughts don't just sit in the background of your mind. They shape everything you do. They determine what risks you take, what opportunities you ignore, and how you see yourself in the world. But here's the terrifying truth. Most of these thoughts aren't based on reality. Your brain is a pattern-making machine, constantly searching for ways to simplify the world. But in doing so, it often creates shortcuts, distorted, exaggerated, or entirely false narratives about who you are and what you're capable of. These narratives come from past experiences, fears, social conditioning, and even primitive survival instincts designed to keep you safe. Over time, these patterns harden into beliefs, and those beliefs become the filter through which you see the world. The result? You mistake your thoughts for facts. You assume that because something feels true, it must be true. But in reality, your thoughts are not facts. They are simply mental habits. And habits can be changed. This book will pull back the curtain on your mind's most toxic tricks, exposing the lies it tells, the invisible forces that keep you stuck, and the scientifically proven methods to rewire your thinking for confidence, clarity, and success. The science of self-deception, how your brain tricks you. Think about this. If someone lied to you every single day, fed you false information, manipulated your emotions, and limited your potential, how long would you tolerate it before fighting back? But what if the person deceiving you wasn't someone else? What if it was your own mind? Cognitive scientists have identified dozens of psychological distortions, built-in biases and mental traps that make us believe things that aren't true. Here are just a few of the most common ways your brain tricks you into self-sabotage. Negativity. Bias. Your brain is wired to pay more attention to negative experiences than positive ones, making you believe that failure and rejection define you more than success and joy. Confirmation bias. You unconsciously seek out information that reinforces your existing beliefs, even if those beliefs are harmful or false. If you think you're not good enough, your brain will filter out proof of your success and highlight every tiny failure instead. The inner critic loop. The more you repeat a negative thought, the stronger the neural pathway in your brain becomes, making it easier and easier to believe. Your self-doubt isn't always reality. It's often just repetition. The comfort zone trap. Your brain prioritizes safety over success, which means it resists change, even when that change is exactly what you need to grow. The good news? Once you recognize these mental traps, you can break free from them. You can rewire your mind, replacing toxic thought patterns with empowering ones. Science has proven that your brain is capable of neuroplasticity, the ability to reshape itself based on new experiences, thoughts, and habits. This means that you are not stuck. No matter how long you've been trapped in toxic thinking, you can change. What you'll learn in this book and why it will change everything. This book is not just another think positive guide. It is a roadmap to mental liberation, a deep, science-backed, actionable system for breaking free from self-sabotaging thoughts and stepping into your most powerful, confident, and limitless self. Here's what you'll discover. How to identify the lies. Learn how to recognize the subconscious beliefs that have been holding you back, ones you may not even realize you have. The science of thought rewiring. Discover how to use proven neuroscience techniques to literally reprogram your brain and create unstoppable confidence from the inside out. How to silence your inner critic for good. No more self-doubt, no more hesitation, no more second-guessing. You'll learn how to take control of your thoughts rather than being controlled by them. The Thought Detox Method. A powerful, step-by-step process to eliminate toxic thinking and replace it with high-performance mental habits. Emotional reprogramming. How to shift from fear, anxiety, and self-doubt to clarity, resilience, and action. Breaking free from external influences. How to protect yourself from negativity, toxic environments, and the subconscious conditioning that keeps you small. How to build a new identity. You won't just learn how to think differently. You'll learn how to become a new version of yourself, one who operates at a higher level of confidence, success, and emotional freedom. By the time you finish this book, you will have complete control over your mind. The negative thoughts that once dictated your actions will lose their power. You will see the world through a new lens, one where limitations no longer define you, and success, joy, and confidence feel natural, effortless, and inevitable. Your transformation begins now. Right now, in this very moment, you stand at a crossroads. You can continue believing the same lies your mind has told you for years, staying stuck, doubting yourself, and living in the shadows of your potential. Or you can choose something different. You can choose to wake up, challenge the lies, and rewrite your reality. Which path will you take? Because here's the truth. Your thoughts have been lying to you, and it's time to stop believing them. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Why we are wired for negativity. Think about the last time you lay awake at night, replaying an awkward conversation in your head. Maybe you felt your stomach twist as you recalled a moment of failure from years ago. Or perhaps you convinced yourself that someone's short response meant they were upset with you. Even when things are going well, it's as if your mind is programmed to search for something wrong. You might hear a whisper of doubt telling you that your success is temporary or that you're not truly deserving of happiness. This tendency is not just something unique to you. It's a fundamental part of the human condition. At the core of this struggle is an evolutionary trait known as negativity bias. Our brains are not naturally wired for happiness. They are designed for survival. To understand why, we need to travel back thousands of years to the earliest days of human existence. Our ancestors lived in an unpredictable and dangerous world where every day was a battle to stay alive. The humans who were more cautious, those who anticipated danger and remained hyper-aware of potential threats, were the ones who survived. Those who focused too much on pleasure and ignored potential dangers often didn't live long enough to pass on their genes. Over generations, the brain adapted by developing a heightened sensitivity to negative stimuli. This is why, even today, we react more intensely to negative experiences than to positive ones. A single insult can linger in our minds for years, while dozens of compliments are quickly forgotten. Losing $100 feels far worse than gaining the same amount feels good. Psychologists have found that bad memories stick with us longer than positive ones, and that people tend to remember criticism far more vividly than praise. This evolutionary wiring once served us well, keeping our ancestors safe from predators, rival tribes, and environmental dangers. But in the modern world, it often works against us. Imagine your brain as an ancient alarm system that was built to detect and respond to threats. In the past, this alarm would sound when a lion lurked in the bushes, or when an enemy approached with a spear. Today, that same alarm system is triggered by things that are far less dangerous. An embarrassing moment, a stressful email from a boss, a social media post that makes us feel inadequate. The brain doesn't distinguish between physical threats and psychological discomfort. It reacts to both in similar ways, flooding the body with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Over time, repeated exposure to negative thoughts can rewire the brain, making it even more prone to seeing the worst in every situation. Neuroscientific research has shown that when we repeatedly think negative thoughts, we strengthen the neural pathways associated with them. Dr. Rick Hansen, a psychologist and expert in neuroplasticity, explains that neurons that fire together wire together. This means that the more we engage in negative thinking, the more our brains reinforce those patterns, making them stronger and more automatic over time. It's as if we are carving a deep groove in the landscape of our minds, and every time we return to a negative thought, the groove becomes deeper, making it harder to escape. Let's take an example. Imagine two people receiving feedback at work. The first person hears one small criticism in an otherwise positive performance review and spends the rest of the day ruminating on it, questioning their abilities, and fearing they'll lose their job. The second person acknowledges the critique, takes note of areas for improvement, but focuses on the positive aspects of the feedback and moves forward. Both individuals experienced the same situation, but their minds processed it differently. The first person's negative thought patterns hijacked their experience, while the second person maintained a balanced perspective. What separates these two responses? In many cases, it's the unconscious mental habits that have been reinforced over years of experience. If you've spent most of your life fixating on mistakes, replaying failures, and assuming the worst, then negativity will feel like your brain's default setting. But here's the critical thing to understand. Just as negative thought patterns can be reinforced, they can also be undone. The brain has an incredible ability to change, adapt, and rewire itself, a phenomenon known as neuroplasticity. By consciously working to challenge and replace negative thoughts, we can weaken those old neural pathways and create new, healthier ones. However, breaking free from negativity bias requires more than just willpower. It requires understanding how your mind operates, identifying the patterns that keep you stuck, and applying intentional strategies to shift your thinking. One effective technique is thought labeling, a practice rooted in mindfulness. The next time you catch yourself dwelling on something negative, pause and label the thought, "This is my negativity bias talking." By simply acknowledging that your brain is wired to focus on the negative, you create distance between yourself and the thought. Instead of blindly accepting it as reality, you begin to see it as just another mental habit, one that you have the power to change. Another powerful strategy is the negativity audit. Take a notebook and write down every negative thought you catch yourself having throughout the day. At the end of the day, go through the list and ask yourself, is this thought based on facts, or is it based on fear? Would I say this to a friend in the same situation? What's a more balanced, realistic way to view this situation? By actively questioning your negative thoughts, you begin to disrupt their automatic power over you. Historically, many of the world's greatest thinkers and leaders have struggled with the same mental patterns we face today. Stoic philosophers, such as Marcus Aurelius, wrote extensively about the importance of training the mind to overcome negative thinking. In his Meditations, Aurelius reminds himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This ancient wisdom aligns with modern psychology, reinforcing the idea that our thoughts are not reality. They are interpretations of reality. If you find yourself constantly bombarded with self-doubt, worry, or pessimism, remind yourself that this is not a personal failing. It is a deeply ingrained survival instinct that no longer serves you in the way it once did. Your job is not to eliminate all negative thoughts, because that would be impossible, but rather to change how you respond to them. You have the ability to retrain your brain, to challenge the lies it tells you, and to reclaim control over your mental landscape. As we move forward in this audiobook, we will explore the specific ways in which negative thoughts shape our emotions, behaviors, and overall well-being. We will dive deeper into the role of fear and anxiety, uncover the most common mental traps that keep us stuck, and most importantly, learn actionable strategies to break free. Remember, the fact that you are listening to this now means you are already taking the first step. Awareness is the foundation of change, and by understanding the invisible forces that shape your thinking, you are equipping yourself with the knowledge needed to overcome them. Chapter 2. The Role of Fear and Anxiety in Toxic Thinking. If you've ever felt trapped in a cycle of negative thoughts, you might have wondered why your brain refuses to let go of worry, self-doubt, or fear, even when you know, logically, that these thoughts are not helping you. Why does your mind fixate on worst-case scenarios? Why do you relive embarrassing moments from years ago as if they happened yesterday? Why is it so much easier to believe in your shortcomings than your strengths? The answer lies in something far older than you: fear and anxiety, two of the most powerful forces in the human brain. From an evolutionary perspective, fear is one of the most basic survival mechanisms we have. It is the alarm system that kept our ancestors alive, alerting them to immediate dangers, whether it was a rustle in the bushes that might indicate a predator or a threatening gesture from a rival tribe member. Anxiety, which can be thought of as fear's more subtle cousin, evolved to help us anticipate potential threats before they happened. It made early humans cautious, encouraging them to prepare for problems before they arose. These mechanisms worked together to ensure that we survived long enough to pass on our genes. But in modern society, where physical threats are far less common, fear and anxiety have taken on a different role. Instead of protecting us from immediate danger, they now operate as overactive mental bodyguards, constantly scanning our lives for any possible risk, real or imagined. The problem is, our minds haven't evolved fast enough to distinguish between genuine threats and harmless discomfort. Your brain reacts to a negative email from your boss the same way it would have reacted to the sight of a saber-toothed tiger 10,000 years ago. This explains why negative thoughts are so persistent. They are fueled by fear, and fear is designed to grab and hold your attention. The human brain has a structure called the amygdala, an almond-shaped cluster of neurons responsible for processing fear and emotional reactions. When you experience something stressful, whether it's criticism, rejection, or uncertainty, your amygdala lights up, sending distress signals throughout your nervous system. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, and your body prepares for action. This is known as the fight or flight response, and while it was useful in ancient times, it often misfires in today's world, triggering stress reactions over things that do not actually threaten our survival. Consider a real-life example. Imagine you send a text to a friend and hours go by without a response. A rational brain might think, they're probably busy, no big deal. But an anxious brain, shaped by years of negative thinking, jumps to a different conclusion. They must be upset with me. Maybe I said something wrong. What if they don't want to be friends anymore? Suddenly, your body is in a state of heightened alert. Your stomach tightens, and you can't focus on anything else. What happened here? Your mind perceived a lack of immediate reassurance as a potential threat and activated the fear response, just as it would have done if you were in actual danger. These fear-based thought patterns are called cognitive distortions, mental traps that convince you of false realities. Some of the most common include catastrophizing, automatically assuming the worst-case scenario. If I make a mistake at work, I'll get fired and lose everything. Mind reading, believing you know what others are thinking without evidence. They didn't smile at me, so they must be mad at me. Personalization, taking responsibility for things that aren't your fault. My friend seemed upset today. It must be because of something I did. All or nothing thinking, seeing situations in extremes with no middle ground. If I'm not perfect, I'm a complete failure. These distortions don't just affect how you feel in the moment. They shape your long-term mental patterns, reinforcing toxic thinking and keeping you stuck in cycles of fear and anxiety. Over time, your brain learns to default to these thought patterns, making them feel automatic and inescapable. To illustrate just how powerful these mental distortions can be, let's look at a historical example of fear-driven decision-making. In the 17th century, during the Salem witch trials, a wave of mass hysteria swept through the Massachusetts colony. People became convinced that their neighbors were practicing witchcraft, and paranoia spread like wildfire. Why? Because fear, once ignited, has a way of overriding logic. The accused were often ordinary citizens who had done nothing wrong, but fear made others see danger where none existed. This is a dramatic example, but the same principle applies to our personal fears. When unchecked, fear can make us see threats that aren't there, convincing us that worst-case scenarios are not just possible, but inevitable. So, how do we begin to challenge fear-based thinking? The first step is awareness. The next time you find yourself in a spiral of negative thoughts, ask yourself, 1. Is this thought based on fact or fear? What actual evidence do I have to support this belief? 2. Am I predicting the future? Just because I fear something will happen doesn't mean it will. 3. What would I tell a friend in this situation? We are often kinder and more rational with others than with ourselves. 4. What is the best case scenario? Instead of assuming the worst, what if I assumed the best? Another effective technique is exposure therapy, a psychological method used to retrain the brain's fear response. The idea is simple. Instead of avoiding things that make us anxious, we gradually expose ourselves to them in small, manageable doses until the fear loses its grip. For example, if you fear public speaking, you might start by speaking in front of a mirror, then to a small group, and then gradually build up to larger audiences. This method helps to rewire the brain, teaching it that fear does not have to dictate our actions. Another practical exercise is fear journaling. Each night, write down your biggest fear from the day. Then, next to it, write down whether that fear actually came true. Most of the time, you'll find that your worst fears never materialize, or if they do, they are far less catastrophic than you imagined. By tracking this over time, you can collect real-world evidence that your mind's fear-based thinking is often exaggerated or unfounded. Understanding that fear is not the enemy, but rather a misguided protector, can change the way we interact with our thoughts. Instead of fighting against fear, we can acknowledge it, question it, and ultimately reframe it. As we move forward, we'll explore how negative thoughts influence emotions and behaviors, and more importantly, how to start shifting them toward a healthier, more balanced mindset. Because the truth is, your thoughts are not reality. They are just interpretations. And the good news? You have the power to change them. Chapter 3. How negative thoughts shape your emotions and behaviors. Negative thoughts are not just fleeting disruptions in your mind. They are powerful architects, quietly constructing the way you experience life, shaping your emotions, and influencing your behaviors in ways you may not even realize. If you've ever found yourself caught in a spiral of self-doubt, anxiety, or overthinking, it's because your thoughts are laying the groundwork for how you feel and act. And the more you allow those thoughts to dominate, the more deeply they become ingrained, forming automatic loops that dictate your reactions to the world. Understanding how this process works is essential if you ever hope to break free from it. At the core of this mental pattern lies a psychological principle that has been studied extensively in cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, the thought-emotion-behavior loop. This framework explains how your internal dialogue does not exist in isolation, but rather triggers emotional responses which in turn dictate your actions. Over time, these actions reinforce the original thoughts, strengthening the cycle like a well-worn path in a forest. The more you walk that path, the easier and more automatic it becomes, until eventually, it feels like the only route available. If you constantly tell yourself that you are not good enough, your emotions will reflect feelings of inadequacy, leading you to act in ways that reinforce that belief, perhaps by avoiding challenges, withdrawing socially, or hesitating to pursue opportunities. When those behaviors produce negative outcomes, they serve as further proof to your mind that the original thought was correct, tightening the loop until it becomes almost impossible to escape. To illustrate how powerful this process is, consider a situation that most people have experienced at some point. Walking into a crowded room and sensing that people are whispering or laughing. A person with a balanced mindset might assume the laughter is unrelated to them and move on. However, someone prone to negative thinking might instantly conclude, "They're laughing at me. I must look ridiculous." That single thought, irrational as it may be, triggers an emotional response, perhaps embarrassment, anxiety, or even shame. The emotional discomfort then leads to a behavioral response, such as lowering the eyes, avoiding eye contact, or even leaving the room entirely. Later, when reflecting on the event, the person may recall their feelings of awkwardness and conclude, "I knew it. They were definitely laughing at me. I shouldn't have gone at all." The cycle repeats, reinforcing the belief that social situations are embarrassing or dangerous, making the person even more reluctant to engage in them in the future. The reason these thought patterns are so difficult to break is that our brains are wired to seek confirmation of what we already believe. This is known as confirmation bias, a cognitive shortcut that causes us to filter reality in a way that supports our existing thoughts. If you believe you are unworthy of love, your mind will subconsciously highlight every rejection, every moment of loneliness, and every perceived slight, while ignoring evidence to the contrary. If you believe you are incompetent, you will hyperfocus on every mistake while dismissing your successes as flukes. This is why negative thoughts feel so true. Your brain is constantly gathering selective evidence to prove them right, creating an illusion that they are undeniable facts rather than distorted interpretations of reality. Neuroscience provides even deeper insight into this process. The amygdala, the brain's emotional processing center, is hyper-responsive to negative stimuli because survival, from an evolutionary standpoint, depended on it. Early humans who overreacted to potential threats, like assuming a rustle in the bushes was a predator, were more likely to survive than those who ignored danger. But in today's world, where threats are more psychological than physical, this same mechanism misfires constantly. Your amygdala does not differentiate between a truly dangerous situation and a minor social embarrassment. It treats both as threats, flooding your body with stress hormones and reinforcing anxious thought patterns. The more often this occurs, the more sensitive and reactive your brain becomes, strengthening pathways that favor fear, doubt, and negativity. Take Sarah, for example, a woman who has carried the belief that she is bad at relationships for years. This belief was rooted in a painful breakup from her past, and though time has passed, the thought still lingers, shaping how she approaches every new romantic connection. Whenever she starts dating someone, her mind whispers, "They'll leave you eventually, just like before." That thought stirs feelings of anxiety and insecurity, making her hesitant to fully open up. To protect herself from potential hurt, she starts acting distant or overly cautious, which eventually pushes her partner away. When the relationship ends, Sarah's mind seizes on this as confirmation of her original belief. "See? I was right. I'm just not meant for love." What she doesn't realize is that her own thought created the outcome she feared. This is the tragic irony of negative thinking. It often turns into a self-fulfilling prophecy, ensuring that the very things we dread become our reality. But just as negative thoughts shape your world, they can also be reshaped. The first step is to become aware of them, something many people never do because their thoughts feel automatic and unquestionable. One of the most effective techniques for this is called thought auditing, a simple but transformative practice where you consciously track your negative thoughts throughout the day and analyze them critically. Start by keeping a small notebook or using a notes app on your phone. Whenever you catch yourself thinking something self-critical or pessimistic, write it down verbatim. At the end of the day, review your list and ask yourself, is this thought based on fact or assumption? Is it exaggerated? What evidence supports or contradicts it? Would I say this to a friend in the same situation? By questioning your thoughts rather than passively accepting them, you begin to weaken their grip, creating space for more balanced and constructive perspectives. Another powerful strategy is cognitive restructuring, a process used in therapy to actively replace distorted thoughts with healthier alternatives. Instead of blindly accepting, "I always fail," reframe it as "I have had setbacks, but I have also learned and grown from them." Instead of "nobody likes me," shift to "I have meaningful connections, even if not everyone is close to me." Instead of "I can't do this," tell yourself "I may struggle at first, but with effort, I can improve." These small shifts may seem insignificant at first, but over time, they rewire the brain, weakening old neural pathways associated with fear and failure while strengthening new ones associated with confidence and resilience. The most crucial realization in this entire process is that you are not your thoughts. One of the biggest lies your mind tells you is that every thought you have must be true simply because you thought it. But thoughts are not facts. They are interpretations, shaped by past experiences, fears, and biases. If your mind were a courtroom, your negative thoughts would be like a biased lawyer, presenting only the worst arguments while ignoring all counter-evidence. The key to breaking free is to step into the role of the judge, to listen critically, question relentlessly, and refuse to accept every thought as truth. Ultimately, breaking free from negative thought loops requires consistent effort, but it is entirely possible. You are not doomed to be stuck in the same cycles forever. The thoughts that shape your emotions and behaviors today do not have to define your future. By becoming more conscious of the stories your mind tells you, challenging the lies, and choosing better, more empowering narratives, you can fundamentally change the way you experience life. In the next section, we will explore why some negative thoughts feel impossible to shake and how to finally let them go for good. Chapter 4. Why some negative thoughts feel impossible to shake and how to finally let them go. Negative thoughts don't just come and go like passing clouds. Some of them dig in, take root, and refuse to leave, no matter how much we try to silence them. If you've ever felt like certain negative beliefs about yourself are impossible to shake, like a song stuck in your head, but infinitely more destructive, you're not imagining it. These thoughts have been reinforced for so long that they've become a core part of your internal belief system, shaping the way you see yourself and the world around you. But here's the truth. Even the most deeply embedded negative thoughts can be unraveled and rewritten. You don't have to live as a prisoner to your own mind. To understand why certain thoughts refuse to let go, we need to look at how they get hardwired into our brains in the first place. Imagine your mind as a vast forest with every thought you have creating a small trail through the trees. The more you think a particular thought, the more you walk down that path, trampling the grass and clearing the way, until eventually it becomes a well-worn road that your mind takes automatically. If you've spent years believing, "I'm not good enough, I always mess up," or "people don't really like me," then those thoughts aren't just passing ideas. They're highways in your brain, neural superhighways that fire off instantly and without effort. The more you use them, the stronger they become. Neuroscientists call this process synaptic plasticity, a term that describes how our brain forms and strengthens connections based on repeated patterns of thought and behavior. This is why it's so hard to just think positively and erase old beliefs overnight. The neural pathways responsible for your self-doubt or fear have been reinforced for years, while new, healthier thought patterns may still be dirt roads, barely carved into the landscape of your mind. But the good news? The brain is not fixed. Those highways of negativity can be dismantled and new, healthier roads can be built in their place, but only if you intentionally choose different thoughts and repeat them until they become the new default. Think about it like this. If you take the same route to work every day, it becomes automatic. You don't even have to think about it. But if one day you decide to take a completely new route, it will feel unfamiliar, maybe even uncomfortable. Your brain will instinctively want to revert to the old path because it's easier. However, if you keep taking the new route day after day, eventually, it will become second nature. The same is true for your thoughts. If you have spent years thinking, "I am not worthy," then choosing to think "I am enough" won't feel natural at first. In fact, it will probably feel like a lie. But that's only because your brain hasn't practiced it enough. One of the biggest reasons certain negative thoughts stick around is because they don't just exist in isolation. They are reinforced by deep emotional experiences from our past. If a thought is tied to a strong emotional memory, especially a painful one, your brain sees it as important and keeps it easily accessible. This is why some of your most stubborn negative thoughts likely trace back to childhood experiences or deeply personal failures. When you were young, your brain was in its most formative stage, absorbing messages like a sponge and wiring them into your identity. If someone important to you, a parent, a teacher, a friend, told you that you weren't smart, weren't lovable, or weren't good enough, your brain stored that information as truth, and every experience afterward became proof of that belief. Take Daniel, for example. As a child, his father often told him he was lazy and would never amount to anything. At the time, Daniel didn't have the ability to challenge that belief, so he internalized it. As he grew older, every failure, every setback, and every moment of procrastination became evidence that his father was right. Even though he excelled in certain areas of his life, he barely noticed his successes because his brain was trained to look for proof of his pre-existing belief. The thought, "I am lazy," wasn't just something that popped into his mind randomly. It was wired into his identity. Even as an adult, when he tried to change, that belief held him back. He wanted to be productive, to take risks, to prove himself. But no matter what he did, the thought, "I'm not good enough," always crept in, sabotaging his progress. This is what happens when negative thoughts become core beliefs. They don't just appear, they define us. They dictate what we think we deserve, how we behave, and even what opportunities we allow ourselves to pursue. If you believe you're unworthy of success, you'll unconsciously sabotage your own efforts. If you believe you're bad at relationships, you'll behave in ways that push people away. If you believe you can't change, you won't even try. This is why it feels so impossible to break free from certain thoughts. They aren't just passing ideas. They are the foundation on which you've built your identity. But here's the most important truth you need to know. Just because you have believed something for a long time doesn't make it true. Your mind may have spent years telling you a lie, but you don't have to believe it anymore. You have the power to dismantle even the strongest, most deeply rooted beliefs, if you're willing to challenge them. So how do you start? The first step is identifying the root belief behind your negative thoughts. It's not enough to just notice negative thinking. You have to trace it back to its source. Whenever you catch yourself thinking something negative about yourself, ask, where did this belief come from? Is there a specific memory or experience that made me believe this? Have I been holding on to this belief simply because it's familiar? What evidence do I have that contradicts this belief? By digging into these questions, you start to disrupt the automatic nature of the thought. You force your brain to stop running on autopilot and actually examine whether the belief holds up under scrutiny. More often than not, you'll realize that these thoughts were never absolute truths. They were just interpretations, distorted by emotion and reinforced by repetition. The next step is actively reprogramming your mind. Just like a muscle that atrophies without use, a neural pathway weakens when it's no longer reinforced. Every time you catch yourself thinking, "I'm not good enough," and replace it with, "I am learning, growing, and capable," you weaken the old pathway and strengthen a new one. Every time you stop yourself from falling into a familiar pattern of self-doubt and choose confidence instead, you are rewiring your brain. This process takes time. It won't happen overnight, but with consistency, your brain will start to default to the new, healthier thought patterns, just as easily as it once defaulted to negativity. Ultimately, you are not your thoughts. Your mind is not your enemy. It is simply repeating the stories it has been told. But the beauty of being human is that you have the power to change the story. You have the ability to question, to rewrite, and to free yourself from the thoughts that have held you captive for too long. Chapter 5. The Subconscious Mind, the Hidden Master Behind Your Reality. If your conscious mind is the voice you hear in your head, narrating your daily experiences, then your subconscious mind is the unseen director, orchestrating the entire show from behind the curtain. While you might believe that your decisions, emotions, and behaviors are entirely within your control, the truth is that much of what you do, think, and feel is dictated by a silent, powerful force operating beneath your awareness. Your subconscious is like an operating system running in the background, filled with programs installed long before you ever had the ability to question them. And if you don't take control of what's written in that code, you will continue to live by outdated beliefs, self-sabotaging behaviors, and patterns you don't even understand. To grasp just how dominant the subconscious mind is, consider this. 95% of your thoughts, actions, and emotional responses are controlled by it. That means that for most of your day, you are not consciously making choices. You are running on autopilot, reacting based on patterns that were hardwired into your brain over years, often decades. If those patterns are positive, this works in your favor. But if they are rooted in fear, self-doubt, and negativity, they will quietly steer your life in the wrong direction without you even realizing it. Think of a time when you reacted to something automatically without even thinking about it. Maybe you flinched when someone raised their voice, hesitated before speaking up in a meeting, or avoided eye contact when feeling anxious. You didn't consciously decide to do those things. They happened automatically because somewhere, deep in your subconscious, there is a program that tells you, loud voices mean danger, speaking up leads to embarrassment, or avoiding eye contact keeps me safe. These programs are not logical, nor are they necessarily true. They are simply rules your subconscious adopted early on, based on past experiences. And once they are in place, they run on repeat, shaping how you interact with the world, often to your own detriment. Take the story of Leah. She was a talented writer with dreams of publishing her work, but every time she sat down to write, a paralyzing fear overtook her. She would find herself procrastinating, doubting her ideas, and eventually abandoning her projects altogether. On the surface, it seemed like simple writer's block, but when she dug deeper, she realized that her subconscious had been carrying a belief since childhood. If I put myself out there, I will be judged. This belief wasn't something she consciously thought about every day, but it was guiding her behavior, creating invisible resistance every time she tried to do something that mattered to her. Until she rewrote that belief, no amount of motivation or discipline would have helped. The subconscious does not distinguish between useful and destructive beliefs. It simply absorbs what it is given. If, as a child, you were repeatedly told that you had to be perfect to be loved, your subconscious recorded that as an absolute rule, leading to a lifetime of perfectionism and fear of failure. If you were made to feel like your needs were unimportant, you may find yourself constantly putting others before yourself, even to your own detriment. If you experienced betrayal in a past relationship, your subconscious might now automatically assume, "I can't trust people," making it impossible to fully open up in future relationships. This is why it often feels like no matter how hard you try to change, something always pulls you back into old habits and thought patterns. It's not that you lack willpower or discipline. It's that you are trying to fight against a subconscious program that has been running for years. And unless you address the root cause, that program will always override your conscious efforts. How your subconscious controls your reality. Your subconscious mind does not just influence your thoughts, it shapes your reality itself. This happens in two key ways. 1. Filtering your perception of the world. Your brain is bombarded with millions of pieces of information every second, yet you are only consciously aware of a tiny fraction of it. Your subconscious acts as a filter, deciding which information to bring to your attention based on what it already believes to be true. This is why two people can experience the exact same situation, but interpret it in completely different ways. Imagine two people walking into a crowded party. One person, who has a subconscious belief that people like me and enjoy my presence, immediately notices warm smiles, friendly conversations, and welcoming energy. They feel comfortable and at ease. The second person, who carries the subconscious belief that I am awkward and people don't really want me here, notices distant glances, whispers in the corner, and the one person who didn't greet them enthusiastically. The reality is the same, but their subconscious filters only allow them to perceive the information that supports their pre-existing belief. This is called confirmation bias, and it plays a massive role in reinforcing negative thought patterns. 2. Influencing your actions and opportunities. Your subconscious does not just perceive reality, it actively creates it. If your mind believes something to be true, you will unconsciously make decisions that align with that belief, even if those decisions are against your best interests. Consider someone who believes, "I will never be successful." This belief is running in the background of their mind, so they hesitate to apply for better jobs, they avoid speaking up in important moments, and they unknowingly sabotage their own potential. When they inevitably face setbacks, their subconscious says, "See? I knew it." The belief is reinforced, and the cycle continues. The same happens with relationships. If someone carries the subconscious belief, "I don't deserve love," they will unconsciously push people away, settle for less than they deserve, or fail to recognize genuine affection when it's offered. Your subconscious will always act in a way that aligns with its programmed beliefs, even if those beliefs are harmful to you. This is why so many people feel stuck in the same patterns. Their subconscious is driving, and they don't even realize it. How to reprogram your subconscious mind. The good news is that just as the subconscious absorbed negative beliefs, it can also unlearn and replace them. But because subconscious programming runs deep, the process requires deliberate and repetitive effort. 1. Become hyper-aware of your thought patterns. Start by noticing your automatic thoughts, especially in emotionally charged situations. When you feel fear, self-doubt, or resistance, stop and ask yourself, what belief is driving this thought? Where did I learn this? Is this belief actually true? Or is it just a story I've been telling myself? 2. Interrupt and challenge the belief. Once you identify a limiting belief, you need to break its hold by challenging its validity. If your mind tells you, "I'm not good enough," counter it with real evidence of times you succeeded, times you were valued, and times you overcame difficulties. Actively disprove the belief so that your subconscious can no longer hold on to it as an unquestioned truth. 3. Use repetition and visualization. The subconscious learns through repetition. This is why negative thoughts stick so well. They've been repeated thousands of times. To overwrite them, you must consciously repeat new, empowering thoughts until they become ingrained. Visualizing yourself succeeding, feeling confident, and acting differently than you normally would tricks your subconscious into believing it is real, causing it to rewire itself accordingly. 4. Take actions that contradict the old belief. The most powerful way to reprogram your subconscious is to act against its old programming. If you believe you're not capable, force yourself to take action and prove otherwise. If you believe you're unworthy, act as if you are deserving, and your subconscious will have no choice but to adjust. Chapter 6. The Hidden Traps of Your Subconscious, How It Sabotages You Without You. Even realizing your subconscious is not working against you on purpose. It is not some cruel, malevolent force that wants to see you fail. In fact, its primary role is self-preservation. It wants to protect you, to keep you from experiencing pain, rejection, or failure. But the problem is that its definition of protection is outdated and flawed. It operates like an overprotective guardian, clinging to old fears, outdated beliefs, and past wounds as if they are absolute truths. And when you try to break free from those old patterns, when you attempt to grow, to change, to push beyond your limitations, your subconscious resists with everything it has, pulling you back into familiar territory because, to the subconscious, familiarity equals safety. This is why self-sabotage happens. Not because you are weak, lazy, or undisciplined, but because your subconscious mind sees change as a threat. It does not differentiate between real danger and emotional discomfort. If, for years, your subconscious has associated relationships with heartbreak, it will instinctively push you away from deep connections, causing you to withdraw, pick fights, or attract unavailable partners, because to your subconscious, staying single feels safer than risking pain. If your subconscious has linked success with pressure and criticism, it will make sure you procrastinate, second-guess yourself, or sabotage opportunities, because to your subconscious, avoiding success feels less threatening than stepping into a world of expectations. Consider the case of Marcus. Growing up, he was always told that money was the root of all problems. His parents fought about finances. Debt weighed heavily on their family, and wealth seemed like something only other people had. Even though Marcus consciously wanted financial success, his subconscious had already built an association. Money brings stress, conflict, and unhappiness. So every time he got close to achieving financial security, something happened. He made reckless spending decisions. He turned down promotions. He found himself in one financial setback after another. On the surface, it looked like bad luck, But in reality, it was his subconscious keeping him aligned with the belief that financial struggle was his reality. This happens in all areas of life. People who were taught that love is painful struggle to trust even the most caring partners. Those who were raised in environments of scarcity find it difficult to believe they deserve abundance. If you have spent years believing you are not good enough, then even when success, happiness, or love is within reach, your subconscious will do everything it can to push it away, because it does not believe you are someone who gets those things. So how do you override this hidden resistance? How do you convince your subconscious that it is safe to change, to grow, to become something more than the sum of your past experiences? The key lies in recognizing the patterns of subconscious sabotage and consciously breaking them one by one. Recognizing the signs of subconscious self-sabotage. The first step in breaking free is identifying how your subconscious is actively working against your conscious goals. The problem is that self-sabotage is subtle. It disguises itself as logical reasoning, fear of failure, or external circumstances beyond your control. But if you look closely, you will begin to see patterns that always seem to pull you away from the very things you say you want. 1. Procrastination that feels uncontrollable. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, next week, next year, but somehow you never do. The book remains unwritten, the gym membership unused, the dream business still just an idea. Procrastination is not just laziness. It is often a defense mechanism of the subconscious. If success, growth, or change feels threatening in any way, your subconscious will flood you with distraction, excuses, and even physical exhaustion to prevent you from taking action. 2. Fear of success, masquerading as fear of failure. It seems counterintuitive. Why would you be afraid of success? But many people fear success more than they fear failure because success comes with new expectations, the possibility of judgment, and the risk of losing it all. If you've ever found yourself holding back just when things start to go well, it's likely your subconscious is pulling the emergency brake, afraid of what might come next. 3. Attracting the same toxic patterns. If you continuously find yourself in toxic relationships, unhealthy friendships, or unfulfilling jobs, it's not a coincidence. It's a pattern. Your subconscious seeks what feels familiar, even if that familiarity is painful. Until you change the beliefs that are attracting those patterns, they will keep repeating. 4. Overthinking and analysis paralysis. Sometimes self-sabotage takes the form of endless overanalyzing and second-guessing. Instead of taking action, you drown yourself in research, worry about worst-case scenarios, and seek so much advice that you become paralyzed. Your subconscious does this to keep you stuck in place, convincing you that you're being rational, when in reality, you're just avoiding discomfort. 5. Unexplained anxiety or discomfort. When things go well. Have you ever noticed that when life starts to go well, you feel uneasy, like you're waiting for something bad to happen? That's your subconscious rejecting the unfamiliar. If chaos and struggle have been your normal, peace and success might feel uncomfortable. Your subconscious might even create problems where none exist, just to return to the familiar emotional state it knows. Breaking free. How to override subconscious resistance. Once you recognize how your subconscious is sabotaging you, the next step is to override it. This requires rewiring your mind, teaching it that success, love, abundance, and happiness are safe. Here's how. 1. Normalize success in your mind. Your subconscious will always pull you toward what feels normal. If struggle, scarcity, or self-doubt have been your default state, you must actively normalize success. This means surrounding yourself with people, environments, and information that reflect the reality you want. If financial security feels foreign, study those who have it. If confidence seems impossible, immerse yourself in stories of people who built it. Your subconscious needs proof that the life you want is possible and safe. 2. Take small, repetitive actions that challenge the old belief. If your subconscious believes I am not capable, telling yourself I am successful won't be enough. You must prove it through action. Start small. If you fear public speaking, speak up in small ways. If you struggle with self-worth, set and enforce small boundaries. Each time you act against an old belief, you weaken its grip. 3. Rewire through repetition and emotion. Affirmations alone won't work unless they are backed by strong emotion and repetition. Your subconscious responds to feelings more than words. When you visualize success, don't just see it, feel it. When you affirm a new belief, say it with conviction. The more emotion you attach to the new belief, the faster your subconscious will accept it. 4. Expect resistance and push through it. Your subconscious will resist change. It will try to pull you back into old patterns, making you doubt yourself, feel unmotivated, or sabotage progress. When this happens, recognize it for what it is, a sign that you are stepping beyond your old limits. Instead of retreating, push forward. The discomfort means you are reprogramming. Chapter 7. Rewiring your mind. The science of lasting change. If you have ever tried to change a habit, a mindset, or an emotional reaction, you know how frustrating it can be to feel like you are constantly battling yourself. One moment, you are filled with motivation, ready to take control of your thoughts, behavior, and future. And the next, you are slipping back into old patterns as if you never made the decision to change at all. This is not a failure of willpower or discipline. It is a biological reality. Your brain is not built for instant transformation. It is built for efficiency. And efficiency means repeating what it already knows, regardless of whether those thoughts and behaviors serve you. The neural pathways in your brain have been wired over years of repetition, forming deep grooves of habit and automatic response, much like trails in a forest that become more defined with repeated use. Changing these patterns requires more than just deciding to think differently. It requires rewiring the very structure of your brain through neuroplasticity, the process by which your brain adapts and reshapes itself in response to new experiences, thoughts, and behaviors. Neuroplasticity is both your greatest limitation and your greatest asset. It is what keeps you locked in cycles of fear, doubt, and self-sabotage, but it is also what allows you to break free from those cycles and build a completely new mindset. The key is understanding how the brain rewires itself and using that knowledge to your advantage. Your subconscious is like a supercomputer, and your thoughts are the code that programs it. If you keep feeding it the same negative beliefs, it will continue running those programs without question. But if you consistently introduce new, empowering beliefs with enough intensity and repetition, your brain will begin to rewire itself accordingly, creating new default patterns of thought and behavior. This is not just wishful thinking. It is scientifically proven. Studies on neuroplasticity have shown that the brain physically changes in response to repeated thoughts and experiences. Consider the case of stroke survivors who lose function in one part of their brain. Through deliberate and repetitive practice, their brains create entirely new neural pathways to compensate for the lost function, allowing them to regain movement, speech, or cognitive abilities. If the brain can rewire itself after physical damage, then it can certainly rewire itself to eliminate toxic thoughts, overcome fear, and reshape your entire mindset. But the process requires intentional effort because the old neural pathways do not disappear overnight. They fade only when stronger, more dominant pathways are created in their place. Imagine your current negative thought patterns as deep trenches in the ground. Every time you think in the same way, you reinforce those trenches, making them deeper and easier to fall into. To change them, You must stop walking those same paths and begin carving new ones, even when the old ones feel more familiar and automatic. The more you walk the new path, the more you reinforce a new belief, act in alignment with it, and refuse to engage with old patterns. The deeper the new trench becomes, until eventually, it becomes the new default. The formula for rewiring your brain. The process of rewiring your brain requires 3 key elements: repetition, emotional intensity, and action. Without these 3 factors, new neural pathways do not form strongly enough to override the old ones. 1. Repetition. The power of consistency. Your subconscious mind does not accept a new belief just because you tell it to once. It needs to hear it over and over again until it becomes ingrained. This is why affirmations alone rarely work unless they are repeated with intention and consistency. The brain needs reinforcement, just like a muscle that strengthens with repeated exercise. If you are trying to shift from a mindset of self-doubt to confidence, you cannot just say, "I am confident" once and expect change. You must immerse yourself in this belief daily, through thoughts, words, and actions, until your subconscious accepts it as reality. Repetition is why negative beliefs become so deeply embedded. If you grew up hearing you're not good enough, even if no one said those exact words, but you were criticized, compared, or ignored, your subconscious absorbed that message through repeated exposure. Now, to undo it, you must expose yourself to the opposite message just as consistently. 2. Emotional intensity. The glue that makes change. Stick your brain pays more attention to thoughts and experiences that have strong emotions attached to them. This is why you remember emotionally charged moments, trauma, embarrassment, extreme joy, far more vividly than mundane experiences. When rewiring your brain, you must attach emotion to your new beliefs to make them stick. It is not enough to mechanically repeat, "I am worthy." You must feel it as if it is already true. Close your eyes. Visualize yourself as the confident, capable, unstoppable version of yourself, and experience the emotions that come with that reality. The stronger the emotional charge, the faster the subconscious will absorb the new belief. Think about how trauma works. One painful moment can leave a lasting imprint on your subconscious. The reason it sticks is because of the intensity of the emotion tied to it. Now imagine using that same principle, but instead of reinforcing fear, you are reinforcing courage, strength, and self-belief. 3. Action. The ultimate proof to your subconscious. Thoughts alone are not enough. Your subconscious mind believes actions more than words. If you tell yourself you are confident, but continue avoiding challenges, your subconscious will call your bluff. But if you start acting in alignment with the belief, even in small ways, you provide tangible proof that this new reality is real. If you believe you are not good enough, prove to your subconscious that you are. Speak up in that meeting. Share your ideas. Push yourself beyond your comfort zone. Every time you take action that contradicts an old belief, you weaken its grip. This is why the fastest way to rewire your brain is to do the thing your subconscious tells you cannot do. Breaking through resistance, the subconscious fights back. When you start changing your mental programming, your subconscious will resist. It will try to convince you that the new belief is false, that you are wasting your time, that you should revert to the old familiar way of thinking. This is because your brain does not like change. It prefers certainty, predictability, and familiarity, even if familiarity means self-sabotage. Expect this resistance and do not mistake it for truth. It is just the old neural pathways fighting for survival. You might feel an intense pull to procrastinate, an overwhelming sense of doubt, or even physical discomfort. This is a sign that you are stepping outside your subconscious comfort zone, and instead of retreating, you must push forward. The resistance will weaken with time, but only if you continue reinforcing the new belief long enough for it to take over. The final step committing to the process. Rewiring your subconscious does not happen overnight. The deeper the old patterns, the more repetition, emotional intensity, and action it will take to override them. But the brain will change if you give it the right conditions. Every time you consciously shift a thought, every time you refuse to engage in an old pattern, every time you reinforce a new belief with action, you are literally reshaping the structure of your brain. Chapter 8. Advanced Techniques to Reprogram Your Subconscious Mind for Permanent Change. The subconscious mind is powerful, shaping nearly every aspect of your reality. It dictates how you see yourself, how you react to challenges, how you interpret success and failure, and how you navigate relationships, career, and personal growth. Yet, for most people, this vast internal system runs on outdated programming, deep-seated fears, unexamined beliefs, and self-sabotaging narratives that were not consciously chosen but absorbed from childhood experiences, societal conditioning, and repeated emotional reinforcement. If you have ever felt stuck in the same cycles, unable to break free from negative thought patterns or destructive habits despite your best efforts, it is because your subconscious mind is still clinging to old programming, resisting change at every turn. At this point, we have explored why the mind resists change, how subconscious beliefs form, and the critical role of repetition, emotional intensity, and action in rewiring the brain. Now, we take this process a step further, diving into advanced techniques that allow you to override deep-rooted subconscious blocks, accelerate the formation of new neural pathways, and permanently shift your mental programming. These techniques are not just theoretical. They are backed by neuroscience, psychology, and real-world case studies, proving that lasting transformation is possible when you work with the brain's natural ability to change. 1. Hypnosis and deep subconscious reprogramming. One of the most effective ways to bypass the mind's resistance and directly access the subconscious is through hypnosis. Contrary to popular misconceptions, hypnosis is not about losing control or being manipulated. It is about entering a highly suggestible state where the subconscious is more receptive to new beliefs. Normally, your conscious mind acts as a gatekeeper, filtering out any information that contradicts your existing beliefs. But in a hypnotic state, whether achieved through guided hypnosis, self-hypnosis, or deep meditation, that barrier temporarily weakens, allowing you to implant new, empowering narratives without subconscious resistance. Studies have shown that hypnosis can effectively rewire thought patterns, accelerate habit formation, and even produce physiological changes in the brain. Athletes use it to enhance performance, business leaders use it to overcome limiting beliefs, and individuals struggling with phobias or anxiety use it to reshape their emotional responses. If you have ever felt that no matter how hard you try to change a belief, something deep inside continues to resist, hypnosis provides a way to speak directly to the subconscious in a language it understands: images, emotions, and vivid mental experiences. To begin using hypnosis, start with self-hypnosis techniques. Find a quiet space, close your eyes, and take deep, rhythmic breaths to relax your body. Begin visualizing your desired reality, not as something distant or hypothetical, but as if it is happening now. Feel the emotions attached to this reality as vividly as possible. In this relaxed state, repeat key affirmations that align with your new belief system. Because your conscious resistance is lowered, these statements will be absorbed more deeply into the subconscious. Reinforce this process daily. The more frequently you access this hypnotic state, the faster your subconscious will adapt to the new programming. 2. The power of meditation to rewire neural pathways. While hypnosis focuses on direct subconscious suggestion, meditation is a powerful tool for breaking habitual thought loops and creating space for new mental patterns to emerge. The brain operates in different frequency states, When you are awake and thinking critically, it functions in the beta wave state. But when you enter deep relaxation or meditation, it shifts into alpha and theta states, where the subconscious mind becomes more receptive. This is why meditation is so effective at dissolving anxiety, rewiring stress responses, and fostering long-term cognitive shifts. Meditation works because it interrupts automatic thought patterns that keep you locked in negative loops. If you have spent years reacting to challenges with fear, doubt, or procrastination, your brain has wired that response so deeply that it feels automatic. But when you meditate, you step outside those habitual reactions, training your mind to become an observer rather than a prisoner of its own patterns. Over time, this creates psychological flexibility, the ability to choose your responses rather than being controlled by old programming. Chapter 8: Advanced Techniques to Reprogram Your Subconscious Mind for Permanent Change. The subconscious mind is powerful, shaping nearly every aspect of your reality. It dictates how you see yourself, how you react to challenges, how you interpret success and failure, and how you navigate relationships, career, and personal growth. Yet, for most people, this vast internal system runs on outdated programming, deep-seated fears, unexamined beliefs, and self-sabotaging narratives that were not consciously chosen but absorbed from childhood experiences, societal conditioning, and repeated emotional reinforcement. If you have ever felt stuck in the same cycles, unable to break free from negative thought patterns or destructive habits despite your best efforts, it is because your subconscious mind is still clinging to old programming, resisting change at every turn. At this point, we have explored why the mind resists change, how subconscious beliefs form, and the critical role of repetition, emotional intensity, and action in rewiring the brain. Now, we take this process a step further, diving into advanced techniques that allow you to override deep-rooted subconscious blocks, accelerate the formation of new neural pathways, and permanently shift your mental programming. These techniques are not just theoretical. They are backed by neuroscience, psychology, and real-world case studies, proving that lasting transformation is possible when you work with the brain's natural ability to change. 1. Hypnosis and deep subconscious reprogramming. One of the most effective ways to bypass the mind's resistance and directly access the subconscious is through hypnosis. Contrary to popular misconceptions, hypnosis is not about losing control or being manipulated. It is about entering a highly suggestible state where the subconscious is more receptive to new beliefs. Normally, your conscious mind acts as a gatekeeper, filtering out any information that contradicts your existing beliefs. But in a hypnotic state, whether achieved through guided hypnosis, self-hypnosis, or deep meditation, that barrier temporarily weakens, allowing you to implant new, empowering narratives without subconscious resistance. Studies have shown that hypnosis can effectively rewire thought patterns, accelerate habit formation, and even produce physiological changes in the brain. Athletes use it to enhance performance, business leaders use it to overcome limiting beliefs, and individuals struggling with phobias or anxiety use it to reshape their emotional responses. If you have ever felt that no matter how hard you try to change a belief, something deep inside continues to resist, hypnosis provides a way to speak directly to the subconscious in a language it understands: images, emotions, and vivid mental experiences. To begin using hypnosis, start with self-hypnosis techniques. Find a quiet space, close your eyes, and take deep, rhythmic breaths to relax your body. Begin visualizing your desired reality, not as something distant or hypothetical, but as if it is happening now. Feel the emotions attached to this reality as vividly as possible. In this relaxed state, repeat key affirmations that align with your new belief system. Because your conscious resistance is lowered, these statements will be absorbed more deeply into the subconscious. Reinforce this process daily. The more frequently you access this hypnotic state, the faster your subconscious will adapt to the new programming. 2. The power of meditation to rewire neural pathways. While hypnosis focuses on direct subconscious suggestion, meditation is a powerful tool for breaking habitual thought loops and creating space for new mental patterns to emerge. The brain operates in different frequency states. When you are awake and thinking critically, it functions in the beta wave state. But when you enter deep relaxation or meditation, it shifts into alpha and theta states, where the subconscious mind becomes more receptive. This is why meditation is so effective at dissolving anxiety, rewiring stress responses, and fostering long-term cognitive shifts. Meditation works because it interrupts automatic thought patterns that keep you locked in negative loops. If you have spent years reacting to challenges with fear, doubt, or procrastination, your brain has wired that response so deeply that it feels automatic. But when you meditate, you step outside those habitual reactions, training your mind to become an observer rather than a prisoner of its own patterns. Over time, this creates psychological flexibility, the ability to choose your responses rather than being controlled by old programming. Consider how a child absorbs beliefs about themselves and the world. They do not sit down and logically evaluate whether they should feel confident or insecure, whether success is attainable or out of reach. Instead, they absorb the emotional atmosphere of their home, the spoken and unspoken messages they receive from parents, teachers, and society. If they grow up in an environment where failure is seen as shameful, they will internalize that fear, even if no one explicitly says, "You must be afraid of failure." If they are surrounded by scarcity, whether financial, emotional, or psychological, they will subconsciously adopt a scarcity mindset, believing that opportunities are rare, that success is only for the lucky few, and that they must struggle to get ahead. These deep-seated beliefs do not originate from rational thought, but from repeated exposure to specific emotional and environmental conditions. Now, fast forward to adulthood. While we may believe we have outgrown these childhood influences, the reality is that we continue to be shaped by our environment every single day. The people we spend time with, the media we consume, the physical spaces we inhabit. All of these factors act as reinforcement mechanisms, either strengthening our existing beliefs or challenging them. If you are surrounded by people who constantly complain about life, who reinforce the idea that success is impossible or that happiness is out of reach, then no matter how much you try to reprogram your mind, your subconscious will default to what is familiar. This is why so many people feel stuck in personal development. They are trying to change their mindset while their environment is constantly reinforcing the old one. 1. The people around you. Are they strengthening or sabotaging your growth? There is a well-known concept in psychology that states, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This is not just a motivational quote. It is a fundamental truth about how the subconscious mind works. Humans are wired for social adaptation. We unconsciously mirror the behaviors, language, and emotional states of those around us. This is due to the presence of mirror neurons in the brain, which make us automatically mimic the attitudes, energy, and belief systems of those we interact with most frequently. If you are surrounded by people who are pessimistic, fearful, or complacent, your subconscious will begin to align with those same patterns, even if you consciously try to resist. Think about the last time you spent time with someone who was highly negative, someone who complained about everything, focused on worst-case scenarios, and dismissed any possibility of growth or success. Even if you walked into the conversation feeling optimistic, chances are you left feeling drained, doubtful, or less motivated than before. Now contrast that with a time when you were around someone inspiring, someone who believed in possibilities, who encouraged you to aim higher, who challenged your limiting beliefs. You likely felt energized, empowered, and capable of more. This is not coincidence. It is neurobiology in action. Your subconscious mind is constantly scanning your social environment, looking for cues on how to think, feel, and behave. If it sees that the people around you live in fear, it assumes that fear is justified. If it sees that people around you struggle financially, it assumes that money must be difficult to earn. But if it sees that the people in your life embody confidence, abundance, and success, it absorbs that reality as truth. This is why changing your social environment is one of the fastest ways to reprogram your subconscious mind. If you surround yourself with people who reflect the mindset and behaviors you aspire to, your subconscious will begin adapting to that new reality automatically. 2. The media you consume, a silent architect of your subconscious beliefs. Most people do not realize that what they watch, listen to, and read is shaping their subconscious mind every single day. Every piece of media you consume acts as a subconscious suggestion, reinforcing certain beliefs while weakening others. If you consistently expose yourself to fear-based media, news stories focused on danger, social media content filled with outrage, movies that glorify suffering and struggle, your subconscious will absorb the message that the world is a hostile place, that success comes with suffering, and that fear is a necessary survival mechanism. Conversely, if you fill your mind with content that reinforces confidence, empowerment, and possibility, your subconscious will begin operating from that perspective instead. This does not mean avoiding reality or living in denial. It means choosing carefully what you allow to enter your mental space. If you watch a documentary about people overcoming adversity and achieving greatness, your subconscious absorbs the message that resilience is possible. If you listen to empowering podcasts, read books that expand your thinking, or engage with ideas that challenge you to grow, your subconscious begins aligning with that higher level of thinking. To consciously reprogram your mind, audit your media diet. Pay attention to how you feel after consuming certain types of content. If something leaves you feeling anxious, fearful, or disempowered, it is likely reinforcing negative programming. Replace negative inputs with positive, growth-oriented content. Listen to audiobooks, podcasts, or interviews featuring people who have achieved the mindset you aspire to. Be intentional about what you scroll through on social media. Every post, every video, every headline is a micro-suggestion to your subconscious. Choose wisely. 3. Your physical environment, how the spaces you inhabit. Shape your mind, your external world, is a reflection of your internal state, but it also works in reverse. Your surroundings shape your subconscious programming. Think about the difference in mental energy when you walk into a cluttered, chaotic space versus a well-organized, inspiring environment. Your subconscious is constantly absorbing cues from your surroundings, associating certain spaces with specific emotions and behaviors. To use your physical environment as a tool for subconscious reprogramming, design your space to reflect your goals. If you are working on self-confidence, surround yourself with reminders of past achievements, vision boards, or affirmations that reinforce your new identity. Remove triggers that reinforce old patterns. If your environment is filled with reminders of failure, stress, or bad habits, your subconscious will keep reliving those experiences. Spend time in spaces that inspire you. If you want to develop an abundance mindset, visit places where success and creativity thrive. Whether that is a beautiful park, a high-end bookstore, or an entrepreneurial community. The subconscious mind is not just shaped by internal thoughts and affirmations. It is profoundly influenced by the world you live in, the people you interact with, the media you consume, and the physical spaces you inhabit. If you truly want to reprogram your mind, you must take control of these external factors and design an environment that supports the person you are becoming. Chapter 10. The Subconscious Reinforcement Loop, Making Transformation Automatic and Unstoppable. The human mind does not simply absorb information passively. It operates in loops, cycles of thought, behavior, and feedback that continuously reinforce one another. Every belief you hold, whether empowering or destructive, is strengthened through repetition and validation in your daily life. This is why negative thought patterns feel so automatic. They have been reinforced through countless experiences, habitual reactions, and unconscious confirmations over time. But what most people do not realize is that this same mechanism can be used to reinforce new positive beliefs just as effectively. If you understand how to construct a subconscious reinforcement loop, you can train your mind to automatically generate confidence, success-oriented thinking, and emotional resilience without the need for constant conscious effort. At its core, a reinforcement loop works through three key elements. 1. An initial thought or belief. 2. A behavioral response to that belief. And 3. An external validation that confirms the belief to the subconscious. This cycle then repeats itself, strengthening the belief with each iteration. For example, if someone holds a subconscious belief that they are socially awkward, their mind will automatically generate anxious thoughts in social situations, which then leads to avoidant behaviors, such as not making eye contact, speaking quietly, or withdrawing. This, in turn, creates a feedback loop where others perceive them as distant or unengaged, reinforcing their original belief of awkwardness. This loop repeats until it becomes deeply ingrained, making social confidence feel impossible, even though the belief is being sustained only by repeated validation, not by actual reality. The same principle applies to any negative subconscious belief, whether it is about your intelligence, self-worth, financial success, or emotional stability. The mind continuously seeks confirmation of what it already believes, and it filters out experiences that contradict that belief. This is why, even when given evidence that they are capable or worthy, people with deep-seated self-doubt often dismiss it, unconsciously sabotaging their own progress. But once you understand how these loops work, you can reverse engineer the process, installing new beliefs, reinforcing them through action, and ensuring they receive subconscious confirmation in daily life. The first step, planting the seed of a new identity. To create a reinforcement loop that works in your favor, you must first establish the core belief you want to reinforce. This is not just about surface-level affirmations. It is about defining a new identity that you will consistently validate through action and experience. The subconscious does not respond to empty statements. It responds to consistent exposure to the same belief, paired with real-world proof. Instead of simply saying, "I am confident," you must adopt the identity of a naturally confident person, one who expects confidence to be their default state. Instead of repeating, "I am financially successful," you must embody the identity of someone who operates from financial confidence, making decisions and taking actions that align with abundance rather than scarcity. This shift from passive affirmation to identity-level transformation is what makes subconscious reprogramming powerful. To initiate this process, choose one core identity shift you want to reinforce. Rather than attempting to reprogram multiple beliefs at once, focus on a single foundational identity that will naturally influence multiple areas of your life. Define the thought patterns and behaviors of this new identity. How does a confident person think? How do they speak? What risks do they take? The more detailed this internal blueprint is, the more your subconscious can align with it. Start visualizing yourself operating from this identity daily. The brain does not differentiate between real experiences and vividly imagined ones, so repeated visualization will begin to create neural familiarity with this new version of yourself. The second step, creating behavioral alignment with the new identity. The subconscious is programmed through action, not just thought. If you hold a belief, but never reinforce it through behavior, your mind will reject it as unproven. This is why simply reciting affirmations does not work. The brain requires experiential evidence before it will accept a new belief as truth. To solidify a subconscious reinforcement loop, you must engage in actions that align with the new identity, no matter how small at first. For instance, if you are reprogramming confidence, you must start acting as if you are already that confident person. This does not mean pretending or faking it. It means engaging in small, manageable behaviors that naturally reinforce the belief. It could be as simple as maintaining stronger eye contact, standing taller, or speaking more assertively. These micro-actions, when repeated daily, provide tangible proof to your subconscious that confidence is your natural state. Over time, these small behavioral shifts accumulate, making confidence feel automatic rather than forced. The key here is consistency. The subconscious does not change overnight. It rewires itself through repeated exposure to the same behavioral patterns. The more frequently you engage in actions that align with your new identity, the more natural they become, eventually replacing the old, limiting behaviors entirely. The third step: seeking external validation to strengthen the loop. The final and most crucial element of a subconscious reinforcement loop is external confirmation. Your subconscious thrives on feedback from the outside world. If you plant a new belief and align your behaviors accordingly, but your external world does not reflect that belief, your subconscious will struggle to accept it as reality. This is why so many people feel like they are battling against their own minds. They are trying to reprogram themselves while still receiving constant validation of their old identity. To ensure your subconscious adopts the new belief, you must intentionally seek out environments, people, and experiences that reinforce your transformation. This might mean changing the conversations you engage in. If you are reprogramming confidence, surround yourself with people who reflect that mindset, rather than those who reinforce insecurity. Immersing yourself in environments that align with your new identity. If you are shifting to an abundance mindset, spend time in places that make abundance feel normal rather than environments that reinforce scarcity. Collecting small wins that confirm your belief. If you are reinforcing the idea that you are capable of success, celebrate every minor achievement as subconscious proof that the belief is true. Over time, these external confirmations will create a self-perpetuating loop where your subconscious no longer resists the new belief because it has seen repeated undeniable evidence that the belief is real. Once this loop is established, your subconscious will actively seek out more experiences that align with the new identity, further solidifying the transformation. Reprogramming the subconscious is not about forcing change. It is about creating a natural, automatic reinforcement loop that makes transformation effortless. By planting the seed of a new identity, aligning your behaviors with that identity, and ensuring external validation of your new beliefs, you construct a self-sustaining system of transformation. This is how confidence becomes second nature, how success-oriented thinking replaces self-doubt, and how emotional resilience becomes an intrinsic part of who you are. Chapter 11: Overcoming Subconscious Resistance. Why your mind fights change and how to break through transformation is not just about installing new beliefs. It is about overcoming the resistance that arises when your subconscious fights to keep you in the familiar. If you have ever tried to change a long-standing habit, adopt a new mindset, or push yourself beyond old limitations, you have likely felt this internal pushback, the nagging doubt, the sudden self-sabotage, the overwhelming temptation to return to old patterns, even when you know they do not serve you. This is subconscious resistance in action, and it is the single greatest obstacle standing between you and lasting change. The reason so many people fail to transform their lives is not because they lack the desire or willpower, but because they do not understand why the subconscious resists change so strongly or how to strategically navigate this resistance without being pulled back into old patterns. At its core, your subconscious is designed to keep you safe. It does not care about your goals, your dreams, or your ambitions. It only cares about what is familiar and predictable. This is because, from an evolutionary perspective, familiarity equals survival. Your brain evolved in a world where anything new or unknown could be dangerous, so it developed a deep, automatic preference for the familiar, even if the familiar is painful, limiting, or destructive. If you have spent years operating from self-doubt, your subconscious interprets that self-doubt as a known, stable reality. If you suddenly try to shift into confidence, your subconscious sees this as a threat, not because confidence is bad, but because it is unfamiliar. The mind then triggers resistance mechanisms to pull you back into the old, safe way of being. This is why people often experience anxiety, self-sabotage, or sudden exhaustion when trying to change deeply ingrained patterns. It is the subconscious activating its defense system, attempting to steer you away from the unknown. Understanding this process is critical because it allows you to see resistance for what it truly is: a natural response to unfamiliarity, not proof that you are incapable of change. Most people misinterpret resistance as a personal failing, believing that because change feels difficult, they must not be cut out for success, confidence, or happiness. This is a dangerous illusion. The truth is, resistance is not a sign that you should stop. It is a sign that your subconscious is beginning to recognize the shift and that you are approaching the threshold of transformation. The key is learning how to move through this resistance without allowing it to control you. 1. The fear of identity death. Why your mind clings to the old you. One of the most powerful, yet often overlooked reasons why subconscious resistance is so strong is the fear of identity loss. Humans are not just creatures of habit. We are creatures of identity. The way you see yourself, the labels you use, the beliefs you hold about who you are. All of these form a deeply ingrained mental framework that provides stability. When you attempt to change at a fundamental level, you are not just shifting habits, you are dismantling who you have always believed yourself to be. This process is often referred to as identity death, and it is one of the most psychologically difficult experiences a person can go through. Imagine someone who has spent their entire life believing they are not good enough. This belief has shaped every aspect of their identity: the way they interact with others, the way they pursue opportunities, the way they speak to themselves in private. If they suddenly start working towards self-confidence, their subconscious perceives this shift as a threat to their identity stability. The mind begins asking, if I am not this insecure person, then who am I? And because the answer is unknown, the subconscious panics, activating resistance mechanisms to restore the old self. This is why people often feel a strange sense of discomfort or even grief when making deep internal changes. They are not just letting go of old beliefs. They are letting go of a version of themselves that they have known for years. The subconscious resists this loss, not because it wants to keep you stuck, but because it fears the unknown version of you that is emerging. Recognizing this fear as a natural part of transformation allows you to move through it rather than being controlled by it. Instead of seeing resistance as a reason to quit, you must see it as a signal that real change is happening, and then push forward anyway. 2. The subconscious defense mechanisms. How your mind tries to keep you stuck. Resistance does not always appear as a loud, obvious force. In fact, it is often subtle, deceptive, and disguised as logical reasoning. Your subconscious is incredibly intelligent. It knows exactly what will keep you from changing, and it deploys these tactics in ways that feel so natural that you do not even question them. Some of the most common subconscious defense mechanisms include overwhelming doubt. Your mind suddenly becomes flooded with thoughts like, what if this won't work? What if I'm wasting my time? This is a classic subconscious strategy to make change feel pointless so that you give up before it takes hold. Procrastination and distractions. The moment you start working on change, suddenly you don't feel like it, or you find a dozen other things that seem more urgent. This is the subconscious redirecting your focus away from the uncomfortable new path. Emotional resistance. Unexplained irritability, sadness, or exhaustion often surface during deep personal transformation. These emotions are not random. They are the subconscious triggering discomfort to discourage change. Rationalization. Your mind comes up with extremely logical reasons why you should stop. Maybe this just isn't the right time. Maybe I need more information first. Maybe I should wait until things settle down. These justifications seem valid, but they are simply disguised resistance. If you do not recognize these tactics for what they are, they will convince you to abandon your transformation before it fully takes root. But once you become aware of them, you gain the ability to override these subconscious tricks and push forward despite them. 3. How to break through subconscious resistance and make change. Stick. The key to overcoming subconscious resistance is to make the unfamiliar feel safe. The more your mind perceives change as a threat, the more it will fight against it. Your goal is to gradually expose your subconscious to the new belief system in a way that reduces the fear response and allows your mind to accept the change as the new normal. Some of the most powerful ways to do this include micro-exposures. Instead of forcing massive change overnight, introduce small, manageable steps. If you are reprogramming confidence, start with tiny shifts, standing taller, making brief eye contact, speaking slightly louder, so your subconscious can adapt without triggering a panic response. Anchoring new beliefs in emotional certainty. Logic alone will not reprogram the subconscious. You must attach emotion to the new belief. Visualize it, feel it, and create experiences that make it real. The more emotion a belief carries, the faster the subconscious accepts it. Expect resistance, but act anyway. When resistance appears, do not engage with it. Do not analyze it, debate it, or try to fix it. Simply recognize it as a natural part of change and move forward regardless. This teaches your subconscious that resistance does not control your actions. Subconscious resistance is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of transformation. When you feel doubt, discomfort, or fear arising during change, it is not your mind telling you to stop. It is your old identity fighting for survival. The more resistance you experience, the closer you are to a breakthrough. If you push through, your subconscious will eventually accept the new belief as its default state, and what once felt difficult will become effortless. Chapter 12. Locking in the new mindset. How to make transformation permanent. The final and most crucial step in breaking free from toxic thoughts is ensuring that your new mindset becomes permanent, effortless, and self-sustaining. Many people experience temporary progress when changing their mental patterns, only to find themselves slipping back into old habits and self-sabotaging behaviors after a few weeks or months. This relapse is not a failure. It is simply the result of an incomplete reprogramming process. Just as a house built without a strong foundation eventually crumbles under pressure, a mindset shift that is not fully integrated into the subconscious will gradually disintegrate when exposed to stress, doubt, or external triggers. To make transformation truly lasting, you must go beyond surface-level changes and embed your new beliefs so deeply into your identity that reverting to the old patterns feels unnatural. At its core, permanent transformation is about creating an internal structure that reinforces and protects the new mindset, no matter what external challenges arise. This requires 3 critical elements. 1. Establishing deep emotional and neurological reinforcement. 2. Reshaping your external environment to support your growth. And 3. Ensuring that your identity aligns fully with the new belief system. If any of these components are missing, the subconscious will eventually revert to what is familiar. But when all 3 are in place, the new mindset becomes your default state, operating effortlessly in the background of your daily life. 1. Emotional and neurological reinforcement, making change automatic. Most people mistakenly believe that change happens through willpower alone. But the reality is that lasting transformation is a result of neural rewiring and emotional conditioning. The brain does not change through logic. It changes through repeated experiences, intense emotions, and reinforced neural pathways. If you want a new mindset to become permanent, you must ensure that it is not just an intellectual concept, but a deeply ingrained neurological reality. The brain is designed to conserve energy, which means it will always default to the most frequently used neural pathways. If self-doubt, fear, or negativity have been reinforced for years, those pathways are strong, well-established highways in your brain. New beliefs, on the other hand, start as tiny, weak neural connections, barely noticeable in comparison. This is why change feels difficult at first. Your brain is quite literally wired for the old way of thinking. However, the more you activate the new neural pathways through consistent, emotionally charged experiences, the stronger they become. Eventually, they overtake the old pathways, making the new mindset the default operating system of your mind. To accelerate this process, you must engage in high emotion reinforcement techniques. The subconscious does not respond to dry, logical affirmations. It responds to strong emotional experiences. This is why people who go through intense life events, such as near-death experiences or extreme hardships, often experience sudden, permanent shifts in their perspective. The emotional intensity of the event imprints the new belief into their subconscious instantly. You can use this same principle deliberately by attaching deep emotional weight to your new beliefs. For example, if you are reprogramming self-worth, do not just tell yourself, "I am worthy." Instead, create vivid mental imagery of yourself experiencing undeniable worthiness. Picture people looking at you with admiration. Feel the warmth of confidence radiating through your body. Hear the sound of your own powerful voice speaking with certainty. The more sensory and emotional details you attach to the belief, the faster your subconscious will accept it as reality. Additionally, amplify your emotions in real-life experiences. Celebrate even small wins. Physically embody confidence by changing your posture and tone. And immerse yourself in situations where you are treated with respect and value. Over time, these high-emotion reinforcements will strengthen the new neural pathways, making self-doubt feel foreign and unnatural. 2. Reshaping your environment, eliminating triggers, and reinforcing growth. Your mind is not programmed in isolation. It is shaped by your environment, social influences, and daily experiences. Even the strongest mindset shift can be undone if you surround yourself with the same negative triggers that reinforced the old beliefs. This is why so many people struggle to maintain progress. They try to change internally while staying in an environment that constantly reinforces their old identity. If your surroundings contradict the new mindset, your subconscious will eventually revert back to what is familiar. To make change permanent, you must consciously curate an environment that supports and reinforces your transformation. This includes eliminating negative influences. If certain people, media, or environments consistently feed your old toxic thought patterns, you must distance yourself from them. The subconscious absorbs messages from external sources, so exposure to negativity will subtly reinforce old programming. If necessary, create firm boundaries with those who undermine your progress. Immersing yourself in growth-oriented spaces. Seek out communities, mentors, and environments that embody the mindset you want to solidify. The more your subconscious sees the new belief reflected in the world around you, the more naturally it will integrate it as truth. Surround yourself with people who expect success, confidence, and resilience to be the norm. It will reprogram your mind to see these qualities as standard, rather than exceptional. Designing daily triggers for the new identity. Just as negative environments reinforce old beliefs, intentional cues can reinforce new ones. This can be as simple as placing reminders of your transformation in your living space, adopting a new morning routine that aligns with your identity shift, or consistently exposing yourself to information that strengthens your new mindset. The key is repetition and visibility. Your subconscious will integrate whatever it is exposed to most frequently. 3. Identity integration, becoming the person who thinks this way, naturally. The final and most powerful step in making change permanent is ensuring that the new mindset is fully integrated into your identity. If you still see yourself as someone who is trying to be confident, successful, or resilient, your subconscious will continue to resist. The shift must move beyond effort and into identity-level embodiment. You must become the kind of person who does not just practice the new mindset, but lives and breathes it effortlessly. One of the most effective ways to achieve this is through identity-based decision-making. This means that instead of asking yourself, "What should I do?" you ask, "What would the person I am becoming do in this situation?" If you are reinforcing confidence, every time you face a challenge, you ask, "How would a deeply confident person handle this?" And then you act accordingly. This method trains your subconscious to associate your actions with your new identity, gradually making the shift feel automatic rather than forced. Additionally, speak and think as if the transformation has already happened. The subconscious cannot distinguish between past, present, and future. It only knows what you tell it repeatedly. If you constantly frame your growth as "I'm working on becoming confident," your mind interprets that as "I am not confident yet." Instead, you must speak in present tense absolutes. I am confident. I operate with certainty. I trust myself fully. The more certainty and conviction you bring to your self-perception, the faster your subconscious will accept it as the new baseline. True transformation is not about temporary shifts. It is about locking in a new default reality. The process is not always easy, and resistance will appear. But the more emotion, environment, and identity integration you bring into the change, the more effortless it becomes. Eventually, the old patterns will feel like a distant memory, something that no longer fits your reality. When this happens, you will know that your transformation is complete, not because you have to remind yourself every day, but because the new mindset has become so deeply embedded that you cannot imagine living any other way. Chapter 13. The Final Seal, Protecting Your Transformation and Living the Truth. Daily reaching the final stage of transformation is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of a new way of living. The challenge now is not just to integrate the change, but to protect, reinforce, and embody it so fully that no external force can shake it. Many people make incredible progress in shifting their mindset, breaking toxic thought patterns, and rewriting their internal dialogue, only to find themselves slowly slipping back into their old ways when life throws unexpected challenges their way. The true test of transformation is not how you feel when things are easy, but how unshakable your new mindset remains when pressure, doubt, and hardship arise. The subconscious does not change overnight, and neither does life. The world around you will continue to operate the way it always has. People will still doubt, criticize, or challenge you. Stress, uncertainty, and setbacks will still occur. Your past patterns may still try to resurface, like echoes of an old song playing faintly in the background. But here's the truth. Once you have rewritten your mind at its core, the only way you can go back is by choice. The old version of you no longer exists unless you actively resurrect it by giving power to the thoughts, beliefs, and habits that once controlled you. Your power now lies in reinforcing the new reality so completely that it becomes your unshakable foundation, no matter what happens. 1. The art of mental maintenance, daily practices. That keep you unshakable transformation is not a one-time event. It is a continuous process of reinforcing your new reality. The biggest mistake people make is assuming that once they feel better, they can relax their efforts. But just as physical fitness requires consistent training to maintain strength, mental transformation requires ongoing reinforcement to remain solid. Without consistent upkeep, the mind, like a neglected muscle, will weaken and default to old programming when under stress. To prevent this, you must establish a system of mental maintenance, daily habits that strengthen and fortify your new mindset. One of the most powerful techniques is active self-reinforcement, deliberately reminding yourself of who you have become. Every morning, before you interact with the world, take time to consciously step into your new identity. Speak affirmations out loud with conviction, not as mere words, but as declarations of reality. Instead of saying, "I am working on becoming confident," say, "I am unshakable in my confidence. I trust myself fully. I operate with certainty and power." The subconscious does not distinguish between past, present, and future. It only absorbs what you tell it with repetition and emotional intensity. By affirming your transformation daily, you lock it deeper into your subconscious until it becomes effortless. Another crucial practice is mental auditing, watching your thoughts throughout the day and immediately correcting any remnants of your old patterns. If a toxic or self-sabotaging thought arises, do not engage with it, analyze it, or entertain it. Instead, interrupt it instantly. Treat it as an outdated script that no longer applies to the person you are. Replace it with a thought aligned with your new reality. If doubt arises, counter it with certainty. If fear surfaces, respond with courage. By doing this consistently, you train your mind to recognize and reject old programming automatically. 2. The immunity shield, protecting yourself from external negativity. Even as you build an unshakable mindset, the world around you will not change overnight. There will always be people who operate from fear, negativity, and limitation. There will be environments, conversations, and influences that attempt to pull you back into the old mindset you have worked so hard to escape. This is why it is essential to build an immunity shield, a mental and emotional barrier that protects your transformation from external contamination. One of the most effective ways to do this is by setting strong mental and emotional boundaries. Just because someone speaks doubt, fear, or negativity does not mean you have to accept it. The subconscious absorbs what you expose it to repeatedly. So if you allow yourself to be surrounded by toxic conversations, limiting beliefs, or disempowering environments, your transformation will slowly erode. Be selective about who and what has access to your mind. If a conversation is draining your energy, disengage. If certain relationships are constantly reinforcing old patterns, reconsider their place in your life. If media, news, or content feed fear and limitation, cut them off. Protect your mind as fiercely as you would protect your home from intruders, because what enters your mind shapes your reality. Beyond boundaries, you must also develop the ability to stand firm in your truth, even when others doubt you. Many people struggle with this because they seek external validation for their transformation. They want others to recognize and approve of their change. But true power comes from knowing your truth so deeply that outside opinions no longer matter. You do not need permission to be confident. You do not need approval to believe in yourself. The moment you stop seeking validation is the moment you become truly unshakable. 3. Turning the new you into a permanent identity. The final step, the ultimate key to making transformation irreversible, is integrating it so deeply into your identity that there is no version of you that exists without it. It is no longer something you practice. It is simply who you are. This requires a full emotional, behavioral, and psychological merger with your new self. Every decision you make, every action you take, every thought you entertain must be in alignment with the person you have become. There is no longer a debate about whether you are confident, capable, or worthy. It is a fundamental truth. One of the fastest ways to solidify this identity shift is by living as if it has always been true. Stop thinking of yourself as someone who used to struggle with self-doubt or fear. Instead, embody the mindset of someone who has always been powerful, always been strong, always been capable. This subtle shift in perception rewires the subconscious to accept the new identity as its only reality. The past no longer defines you because, in this new state of being, the old version of you is no longer relevant. Another crucial technique is closing the back door to the past. Many people fail to maintain transformation because they leave open psychological escape routes, mental pathways that allow them to revert if things get difficult. They think, if this new mindset doesn't work out, I can always go back to the old way of thinking. But this keeps the old self alive in the subconscious. To make change permanent, you must burn the bridge to your past identity. Decide with absolute certainty that there is no going back. The person you used to be no longer exists. There is only forward movement. At this moment, you stand at the threshold of something extraordinary. You have uncovered the lies your mind has told you, dismantled their power, and rewritten your reality from the inside out. You have faced the resistance, navigated the discomfort, and emerged stronger, wiser, and more powerful than before. But now, you must make the final choice, the choice to never look back. The old you is a distant memory, a ghost that no longer has a place in your reality. The new you is permanent, unshakable, and unstoppable. From this moment forward, you do not merely believe in your transformation, you embody it. You walk, speak, think, and act as the most powerful version of yourself because that is who you truly are. The work is done, the shift is complete, and there is no turning back. This is your truth now. Live it fully, live it fiercely, and never forget, you are limitless.